both men have asked me to call them by their first name. So, Andrew, you'll be first. Do you think the military budget is too large? And how can we control deficit spending if we do not decrease military spending?
Well, we can't, is the answer to the second question. And I think the answer to the first question is we ought to gauge the effectiveness of our government not by its size, but by its effectiveness. And that applies, in my view, to the military budget as well. We face real threats in this world, existential threats to our safety, and we need, I think, a lean and strong and effective military. But one of the things we learned from Pat Schroeder's leadership on the Armed Services Committee is that military spending often becomes bloated and funds projects we don't need for our own defense, projects in some cases that our armed services never even asked for. Dwight Eisenhower warned of this danger of a military-industrial complex, and it's a danger that confronts us still. To say that we ought to make our military more efficient is not to be anti-patriotic, and I think folks who disparage or demean or demonize people who differ on this point do a disservice to America itself. The best way to control deficit spending, in my view, is to put every part of the federal budget up for scrutiny. I'll say one other thing. The advantage I bring to this race is having served in a state legislature where balancing the budget is not just a good idea, it's the law. And we don't have the luxury of just borrowing our way out of problems. And I think we ought to apply the same scrutiny to every part of the federal budget.
Thank you. Jared?
First of all, this is, I'm not a professional surrogate, so I have Michael's position statements, and I'll be looking at those. At times, I'll be extrapolating what I know, but it's you'll have to bear with me. Again, I'm a big fan of Michael Bennet. And I don't have one specifically about this, but what I can tell you is that Michael opposed the war in Iraq from the very start. That was an unnecessary and costly military expedition. There is, and I certainly agree, and so does Michael, there is a real threat, a terrorist threat, but the way to fight that is not always heavy-handed military intervention. We have to prevent the nuclear weapons in Pakistan from falling into the wrong hands. A lot of our work there is ensuring that we can ensure stability in Pakistan while we continue to orchestrate this global war on terror. Michael Bennet is somebody who has run businesses. He's somebody who understands what it means to balance a budget. No cuts are easy, and no tax increases are easy. But Michael had to do that every day when he helped restructure businesses and grow businesses, which he did for a number of years and had a very successful private sector career. And that's a value that when you've actually had to balance your checkbook and run your own business, that you take with you to the public sector. And we need more people in the public sector who can understand that. Again, whether it's a state that has to balance our budget or a business that has to balance our budget, I think that's a value that Michael Bennet holds very dear, and he will be there to make those tough choices, including ones about our military expenditures.